Hello, welcome to the most dangerous podcast. We're back. We've had a week off. How are you, James?
Refreshed after the week off, to be honest. Yeah, I've got the football on the background, so if you see me sort of like looking that way, I'm not that bothered about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
refreshed after the week off. Not a lot's happened apart from the news I told you earlier.
Yes.
And went to my daughter did a GCSE recital thing last
Oh,
night.
right.
Yes, we did that. It was
Mhm.
like she was really good. I was like really surprised. It sounds really
Yeah.
bad because she never practiced. Like I'd never hear her practice anything, and she did really well.
Yeah.
It
What
was like
What was the recital in? What was it?
it was like so she played piano and she
Right.
did like
Okay.
The Cruella de Vil tune,
Yeah.
Cruella de Vil. So she did that, but she was like kind of 16th on the list. So we got there at like 6 o'clock, and she played around about 7:30. It
Fucking
was like,
hell.
yeah, I know. It was like on these like wooden seats as well, like really kind
Yeah.
of like high school seats. Yeah, and that's really all I've done. Like,
Well, I found some devastating news out tonight. The clocks go forward next Sunday, don't they?
do they? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good news.
No, it's not.
It
We're at the
is.
cheer comp, right?
Right.
So next Sunday, we've got to be on site at 7:15 in the morning. And of course, the fucking clocks go forward.
Oh,
So that's
right. Okay.
6:45 in the morning, and it takes them 2 hours to get ready. So that's
So you're going to
quarter
be
to
up at
4 in the
3
morning.
o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning.
The only advantage is I am now a disabled parking badge holder, so we don't need to worry about trying to get into the car park
About the
early or
parking,
anything.
right?
Yeah.
There's
I've
swings
had
and roundabouts, I
yeah,
suppose.
I've had so much abuse from people, like basically all people going, "Oh, it's a disabled space." Well, I'm fucking disabled. I've got a
I'm
disabled badge.
disabled.
Yeah. Have
Have
you
you ever
got?
seen that episode of the IT crowd?
Do you know that is a program I've never watched, and a lot of people have told me it's my sense of humor and I should
It
watch it.
really is. It's so
Yeah.
funny. And there's a particular episode where they go to the theatre and the protagonist, like the main guy,
Yeah.
like goes into the disabled toilets. And like there's like a big debate before he goes in. It's like, oh, you can't go in there. It's a disabled toilet.
Yeah.
And like the other guy's like, no, I can. It's just it is for disabled people, but it is a toilet and I can use it. So he goes in, and I can't remember what happens exactly. He ends up like I think he like pulls the chain, like
Right.
the red sort of chain
Oh
thing.
yeah, the emergency thing.
Yeah, and the alarm goes off, and he's like, "Oh shit, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be here." So he like pretends to be disabled, just so he doesn't get in trouble. Like, I'm disabled, and he ends. It's really funny. You should watch it. I think you'd
Yeah.
absolutely love it. That's like the best episode like of the series. But yeah, you should definitely see it.
It's one of the. To be honest, I've been sitting scratching about looking for something to start watching. So
I'll send you the link for it.
yeah.
I'm sure it's on like YouTube or something. But yeah, it's really really funny. And he ends up
Uh,
like so it's in like London. They're in the
yeah.
theatre and stuff, and he pretends all this, and they end up putting him in a wheelchair. He gets wheeled around and stuff like this theatre.
To get preferential treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. He ends up like on a bus going back to Manchester because he's like assumed he's part of like this disabled group.
Bloody hell.
It's so good. They're good.
Sounds
Anyway,
good. I'll be watching that tonight now.
yeah, watch it. It's really funny.
I wanted to talk about. You mentioned football. I wanted to talk about football. Something that's kind of tickled me and bugged me a little bit this week. There was in Scottish football. There was a fairly sizable game last Sunday. Rangers against Celtic,
Oh yeah.
known as the Old Firm, or the Celtic fans now call it the Glasgow Derby. They refuse to acknowledge it's the Old Firm because apparently Rangers died.
Well,
Uh,
technically,
Yeah, right. Yeah, they didn't though. So basically, I'm not going to talk about the Old Firm. Rangers won, that was great, but Celtic are 13 points ahead, so it doesn't really matter. So there's no gloating for Rangers fans really. It was nice day.
yeah.
But towards the end of the game, something dangerous happened, and that's why I'm talking about it. We've got a player called Vaclav Cherny, or Vaslav Cherny, depending on who you speak to. He's on loan from Wolfsburg, I think, and he's I want to say Croatian, something like that. Czech, Croatian.
Yeah.
And he got subbed off towards the end of the game, man of the match, brilliant performance. And when he was at the Rangers bench, getting a lot of stick off the Celtic fans. Rangers scored a virtually last-minute winner, and you can see just in the background of the camera as he runs to celebrate with the Rangers players, he squirts a water bottle in the face of a few Celtic fans in the front row. So he's drinking out of the water bottle, they score, he runs to celebrate and goes and squirts it across their faces. Right. So they're all up in arms, big riots, they're trying to get on the pitch to kill him and everything. It's football banter, it's a bit of laugh. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Right. Since then, I think at least 9 people have reported him to the police for assault, including Celtic Football Club.
Oh, really?
They have asked the police to get involved. Right. Now, in the meantime, thousands of lighters and coins and everything are getting thrown at the Rangers players. But what tickled me, this was some of the things that have been reported, what they've said. Someone could have been killed.
What?
Who knows what was in that bottle?
As if, come on.
Right?
He carries around a bottle of acid with him.
I know. He was drinking it before he did it. Football players generally drink bleach. This is my favourite one. Someone could have been wearing a suede coat.
Come on, man. Ridiculous.
What if someone was allergic to water?
Hasn't it? Yeah, allergic to water? No one's allergic to water. The world has gone absolutely mad, hasn't it? There's so many things that. Everyone complains about everything, don't they? Everyone moans about if
everyone's a victim.
Everyone's a victim. There's a series on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called Adolescent, and I watched it today.
Laura started watching it. I haven't watched it. Apparently, it's brilliant.
It's really good. It's great. I watched it all today when I was supposed to be working.
Mm-hmm.
I just sat I had the computer on and I just put it on, and it's really good. It's great. Now, there's this kind of social media narrative that is based on, I don't know if we should say, this is not the sort of podcast that we are, but there's a narrative that it's based on a black person who stabbed a girl.
Right.
And there's this kind of discourse that the guy that plays the lad who stabbed the girl is
mm-hmm.
a white lad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, that might be what it's based on. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The point is, it's a really good show, and you feel empathy for every single character within that show, and it's a really good watch. But for some reason, different sides of the political spectrum, or whatever, get hold of this kind of idea. Oh, well, that's not right because it should be this, or that's
mm-hmm.
not right because it should be this, and everyone moans about everything. And this is the same with what you're saying, with the football. Everyone moans about something. We got sprayed with water. That's not right. It's football. Mm-hmm. Have a laugh. It's funny.
I know. They're sitting on the front row in a stadium in Glasgow. They're going to get wet at some stage because it rains every 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's with the Netflix thing, just watch it. It's good. Yeah. It's a good program. Forget about the idea, or forget about the ideology behind it, or what you think's right and what's wrong, and how it was wrongly cast or whatever. Just enjoy it for what it is.
Shut up and enjoy the story.
Just exactly.
But black lad, white lad, it's just a lad. It's just a story about a lad that
and that's it. Exactly. Yeah. And shut up, enjoy the story, enjoy the process. And with the football, shut up, enjoy the football. It's a laugh. You know what I mean? Just enjoy it for what it is. It's funny. Get over it. I think
football banter. It was.
Yeah, exactly. Society's gone mad. It really has. It drives me crazy.
And I'll say at this point, Rangers fans would have been livid if it had been the other way around. This isn't a Celtic fan thing. It's just they were gutted because we scored, and they were pissed off, and they got squirted with some water, and that that was.
But you just have to suck it up and go, fucking hell, that's what happened. It was just some water we got sprayed with.
On the darker side, he's now getting warned that he shouldn't be walking about Glasgow because someone will squirt him in the face with something much worse than water.
Fucking mad.
Death threats and stuff.
Just crazy, man. This world, I'm getting, I've always been a grumpy person, but the older I get, I think I get sort of, it fits into, I'm a grumpy old man now. I used to be a grumpy young man.
I said to my daughter, Maddie, the oldest one, I said, I hate to tell you this because you're going to be 17 this year and you're going out into the big bad world. There's a lot more arseholes than there are nice people nowadays.
Yeah.
You know,
Nowadays, I think it's always been the case, but now they've just got more of a voice because of the bloody internet. The bloody internet.
That internet. So James, we're doing London, and I'm not going to ramble on about it because we've started late because of varying reasons. So we've started late. It's my fault. Stuff going on in my house. So we're just going to crack straight onto it. So it's my week, and I have picked a story, and I'm going to come right out with it about vampires.
Vampires in London.
Yeah,
now, this sounds very interesting.
With vampires.
I think if any place was going to have vampires, it would definitely be London.
Yeah, I think I did do a little pod last week. I don't know if you looked at it or listened to it. It was like 7 minutes long or something. It was just to test if we ported over to Spotify.
That's all right. I didn't listen to it.
Yeah, it's not interesting. I told a little poltergeist story.
No, it's the Enfield haunting, wasn't it? And the reason I didn't listen to it is because it's been done like 1,000 times, and people have done I was just like,
I wanted a wee story. We've moved over to Spotify to host, and I wanted to make sure that when I uploaded something, it went through all the channels properly. So apologise if it was crap. But what I did say in that podcast last week is London's one of the oldest cities in the world. I actually don't know if that's true, because there's cities that are probably tens of thousands of years old that have been...
Well, Cairo, I suppose. Yeah. And but I think Chester used to be the capital city of England, I think, maybe.
Did it? Oh dear.
Yeah, before London. Yeah, like, because it had a big port and stuff.
Yeah.
It used to be like a proper Roman centre point.
I suppose so, yeah.
In the UK.
What I think I meant, though, is London's one of the world's first proper big city. Big. They had to build a sewerage system. It was the first one that really needed that. And
metropolis.
Yeah, the London Underground's one of the first undergrounds, because it was so busy and so big they had to build all that. So proper big. It's one of the oldest modern day cities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Industrialised, I suppose.
Yes, there's loads of history in London, loads of history. And I tried to find something that everything's been done before. People have been podcasting, doing YouTube videos and stuff. I tried to find something that was a little bit interesting. So we're going to talk about vampires. But before we start, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on vampires? Tell me what you know about vampires.
What I know about them. I do know is I'd love to be one.
Yeah.
I think it'd be absolutely just dead cool. Have you ever did you see that film, An Interview with a Vampire?
No.
Really?
Yeah,
it's got like Brad Pitt in it and what's his name? Tom Cruise.
I know of it, but I haven't watched it.
Really? That's like one of the best vampire films you could ever see. So you've got to watch The IT Crowd and Interview with a Vampire. What do I know about them? I know that they're pretty cool. So they live forever. They're scared of garlic, and they don't like sunlight.
Yes, true.
They have like fangs. They're like parasites, aren't they? Essentially, they're creatures. They're cryptids that feed off other people, and they can sometimes kill. They can sometimes make other vampires if they want. I think there's loads of different variations of the idea of them.
Yeah, I've read a few. I mean, I'm halfway through Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I've read a few things where they can sort of they can just kill people, or they can make vampires that are like slaves for them, and they can make different grades of vampires and stuff like that, depending on whose story you read.
Yeah, so you have like a leader, I guess, and then he decides. I mean, Bram Stoker. I think that's where I think vampires existed before them, but Bram Stoker kind of sensationalized them, I guess, and brought them into sort of modern society. Cracking story, by the way. You should definitely get through that. It's a good book.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yeah. So yeah, obviously the roots of vampires they've got Slavic roots. People always think about like Transylvania and Romania and stuff like that. So the origins of the sort of vampire story comes from sort of that part of Eastern Europe. And one of the sort of oldest vampire stories is Vlad the Impaler was classed as a vampire.
I believe so. I mean, that's where Bram Stoker based his story on, isn't it? Vlad the Impaler. And I think that was something to do with the Ottoman Empire He was a king or a lord or something along those lines, where he there was he used to basically impale his victims. Excuse me, on spikes,
Yes,
like through the arse and through the mouth. I think, from what I remember.
I looked at doing Vlad the Impaler. You know, when you had leaders of people.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of the
His
best.
story was too big.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So some other famous vampires in history. We've got Countess Elizabeth Bathory, who was a Hungarian noblewoman who allegedly bathed in the blood of virgins to stay young, and sometimes she was being linked to vampire legends for drinking the blood. And
Oh, really?
so she was someone that was known to be, she thought that bathing in the blood of virgins was obviously good and helped prolong her life, so people believed that she was a vampire.
Bathing in the blood of virgins. Yeah.
Struggle around here.
Don't know that many virgins.
And like you said, Bram Stoker's Dracula, that's the first sort of real novelised sort of Dracula story, vampire story. And then since then, everyone's had their own go at it, haven't they?
Yeah, no, I do like vampires. I think it's a good story. Like I said, I think if it was given the option, if like someone came up in the middle of the night, I was laying there and they said, "Do you want to be a vampire?" I'd probably go,
Yeah, go
on then. Yeah, I'm a bit bored of this life. Let's go.
I know. Do they need to eat and stuff?
Vampires?
Is it just blood?
Blood, yeah.
So they don't eat, like, they don't sit and have dinner after the blood or anything like that.
Well, I think they can eat. I don't think they're sort of allergic to food. But yeah, so like in that interview with a vampire, like it's the sort of very early stages. They're quite depressed because they're just eating rats because they don't want to kill people. Well, like one of them is like, I don't want to kill people, so I'll just end up like sucking the blood of rats and rodents and stuff.
Nice.
So it's kind of like, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess like if you were a vampire, it's like, well, I'm gonna have to feed. What do I feed on?
Well, yeah. I wonder nowadays if you could get a vegan blood substitute. You know what the world's turned into, you know?
They can.
Yeah, like blood spelt BLUD or something, you know?
Blood.
Vegan blood that comes from some weird plant.
Yeah. I'm sure there's an option for all vampires out there. Vegan vampires.
Yeah, biting the neck of a plant. So yeah, some of the other things, apparently they have no reflection, so you can't see them in a mirror.
They can shapeshift as well, can't they? Apparently.
Yeah, I've read that a few times. I mean, particularly they're known to turn into bats to fly and stuff like that. But
smoke as well for the smoke, and they can.
Yeah. One of my sort of...
They're pretty fucking cool, to be honest, aren't they?
They are.
Absolutely smooth as fuck. And like, you know, if you've been like alive for like 1,000 years, you'd know fucking loads of shit as well, wouldn't you?
You would, yeah.
You could probably speak about 30 languages, if there's 30 languages that you can out there. And you'd just be like, cryptocurrency. I made it.
But you also wouldn't give a fuck either, would you? Because I think, right, I'm 42, and I think if I went back to being 18, knowing what I know now, I'd tell so many more people to fuck right off.
Exactly, yeah,
you know? Like,
if you were like 1,000 years old, knowing you were invincible forever,
you just wouldn't give a shit, would you?
Fuck off, mate.
Yeah.
What do you mean What do you mean the driveway's shit? Fuck off.
I'm not going on the back of the fucking line. Fucking queuing. Piss off. So obviously, to kill them, there's the famous wooden stake through the heart. That's everyone knows that one. Like you said, they don't like garlic. Sunlight kills them.
I don't understand the garlic thing though. That's a bit random, isn't it?
Yeah, it says here possibly due to its strong smell and antibacterial properties. They must like their bacteria. So I don't know where the garlic thing comes from. I always remember I used to watch. I've realised as I've grown up that I watched a lot of films as a kid I shouldn't have. And one of my favourite films was The Monster Squad when I was a little kid.
Oh, right.
But it's actually a 15. And I used to watch that when I was like 6, 7, yeah.
Right,
It's like a plane crashes full of like like coffins and Dracula and Frankenstein ends up a goodie.
Frankenstein, yeah. Oh no, where did you watch that?
I used to love that film, yeah.
Because like I moved to Chester when I was like sort of like 9 or 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I used to watch the Monster Squad when I was younger, like before I kind of got to know you.
But it's a 15.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you got like there's a werewolf, Dracula's in it, Frankenstein who becomes a goodie, another weird
mummy. They pull the mummy's bandage and tie it to a car, don't they? And it like unravels.
The Monster Squad, I forgot about that.
I used to love that. But there's a bit in it with like the fat kid that's always eating pizza shoves pizza on Dracula's face, and the garlic makes all his face burn.
Melt, yeah.
And that's how I can always remember the garlic thing. And another vampire story I love is Steve King's Salem's Lot.
Yes.
Which is like Dracula in a modern estate. And that's where I learned this rule that you've got to invite him into your house.
That's right. Yeah.
Vampire can't come in your house. You've got to invite him in.
Yeah, he has to cross the threshold.
That's it. So one of the lads is like his mate is a vampire. So he's like, yeah, you can fly in through my window. It's fine. That's normal.
Yeah. That's a really horrible book, actually.
Yeah. Most of these books are.
Yeah, but that one in particular for me, because there's loads loads of kids die and stuff. I think they remade it recently, or they did a film remake. It wasn't very good, to be honest. The original's better. Like I always find with these like horror films that because the 80s technology was kind of not as good as it is now, it makes it spookier.
Also, they had to give more of a shit about the actual story and the plot because they couldn't just put loads of CGI and make it look cool.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. The CGI kind of ruins it when you've got like puppets and stuff like doing weird stuff. It's like, that's really creepy.
Have you read Doctor Sleep? Follow-up to The Shining.
Yeah, a while ago, a few years ago now. Yeah,
there's a brutal bit with a child in that.
I can't remember exactly. But
so that's a little bit about vampires. So historical vampire panics and real cases. You've got the New England vampire panic in the 19th century. So families in Rhode Island and Connecticut exhumed bodies to stop suspected vampires from spreading tuberculosis.
As you do.
Yeah, so it's a bit weird, you know. There's a TB outbreak. Oh, it must be vampires. Let's dig up bodies.
Yeah,
probably got much worse diseases. Yeah. There was the Mercy Brown incident in Rhode Island again. Mercy Brown's body was exhumed and her heart was burned because her family believed she was a vampire. So, but she died and they buried her.
Yeah, and then thought, oh, she's a vampire. Actually, let's burn her heart.
Probably wasn't a vampire if she died.
Didn't have anything better to do. So.
Yeah. And more recently, the Highgate Vampire in the 1970s, a mysterious figure in London's Highgate Cemetery, which sparked rumours of real-life vampire haunting.
When was it? 1970s?
1970s.
Really? People still...
Yes.
Come on.
Well, this is what we're going to talk about this evening.
Really?
London's Highgate Vampire. So it's
1970s?
Yes.
Surely everybody knows that vampires aren't real, right?
Yeah, well, I would have thought so.
Knows.
Yeah.
And even in the 1970s, people must have thought vampires aren't a real thing.
Although
I'm looking forward to it, but yeah.
What we'll get onto and what you've already mentioned is part of this was the fact that in the sort of 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, horror films are a big thing. They were making all these horror films, vampire films, spooky films. So I think, like anything, people just get a bit crazy, don't they?
Yeah, people are weird. Yeah, I get that.
So have you ever heard of Highgate Cemetery before?
I've heard Highgate, not Highgate Cemetery. But...
Right. Highgate is a cemetery that was opened in 1839. So it was a really old cemetery. And it's not like rows of gravestones. This is a proper is it like a mausoleum type thing?
Oh, right, okay. So it's got like full on like crypts.
Big tombs, crypts. Yeah, it is creepy as fuck. I've had a look at it on the internet, and now we're doing video posting. I'm going to put pictures of this up in the video. So
right, wicked,
if you're watching, you might see them now. If you're listening, just go on our Facebook page. And I'll put
Go
some
on
pictures
YouTube and then give us a
Go on
like
YouTube,
and subscribe to us. Yeah,
That's it.
easy.
Yeah, put the effort in. Go on YouTube and look at it. So, and it's like nowadays it's all overgrown. It hasn't been used since the mid 20th century. It's fallen into disrepair. If you actually look at it from above on a map, it just looks like a forest because it's all just trees. You can't
So it's
see.
not maintained anymore, no?
No, the paths are because people walk through it as a sort of visitor thing now, but the tombs are all sort of broken.
It always makes me like, because that's quite funny, isn't it? So like
Yeah.
people putting in these sort of like tombs and stuff, and they must have cost a hell of a lot of money.
I know.
You know, you've got your whole family in there, and they're probably well-to-do people. And then 100 years later, people just go, fuck it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those old cemeteries, don't care.
That's because there becomes a point where you don't remember that generation.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
yeah.
I would go to none of my family have graves, actually. My dad has a stone that he ordered. He got it delivered to his house. He signed for it.
Oh, really?
He signed for his gravestone. The guy was like, there you go. He's like, that's for me. But his ashes are buried there. I've been twice since he died. I don't give a fuck. It's just it's just a bit of stone. That's not my dad.
Well, people say that you have two deaths.
Yeah.
Okay. The first is when you die,
mm-hmm.
and the second is when the last person who remembers you dies.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the end of your of you, basically, isn't it? Because no one will ever remember you ever again. So
yeah. So you either need to be an absolute amazing hero or an absolute bastard to be remembered for a long, long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Normal people don't get remembered.
Maybe I'll become an absolute bastard.
I think that's the easier way. I think
it is, though, isn't it?
The easier way, yeah.
Like, I've got no talent, so I might as well become a bastard.
So basically, if it's fallen, and if you actually see like little walkthrough pictures, it looks like something from like Alton Towers or Disney World. It's like the Haunted Mansion. It's really
pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to go. I think we should get in the car and go one weekend and film around it.
If you got the petrol.
Yeah. So the origin of the Highgate Vampire legend, basically it was in the late 1960s, there were reports of people seeing these figures, seeing these people. So what I've got for you is I've got 4 eyewitness accounts that I want to read to you. Yeah, right. Not very long, don't worry.
Late.
So number 1, the shadowy figure. It was a bitterly cold night in 1969 and Anthony was making his way home after visiting a friend. He took a shortcut past Highgate Cemetery, the towering iron gates.
Don't take a shortcut through a cemetery.
It's a bad idea, isn't it?
In the middle of the night.
So people get, I got mugged. Where were you going? I was taking a shortcut down an alley.
That happened to my mate, actually. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I got mugged. Where'd you get mugged? In the park. Why were you in the park at 2 o'clock in the morning? Took a shortcut.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why you got mugged.
Unlucky, mate.
So he took a shortcut past Highgate Cemetery, the towering iron gates looming ahead. The moon was high, of course, casting long shadows between the crumbling headstones beyond. As he walked, he had the strange feeling of being watched. His footsteps echoed unnaturally loud, and the silence around him was thick, too thick. Then, just as he neared the gates, he saw it. A tall figure stood motionless among the graves, half hidden by the twisted branches of gnarled yew tree. Its form was dark, elongated, almost blending into the night itself, so kind of not there.
Yeah, basically.
Except for its eyes, 2 glowing red orbs burned from the depths of the shadows, locking onto Anthony with unnatural intensity. A wave of paralyzing fear crashed over him. He couldn't move, he couldn't speak. His breath came in shallow gasps, his body frozen on the spot, as if something unseen held him in place. The figure didn't move, but the air around it seemed to thicken, as though the night itself had weight. Yeah. Then, in an instant, it was gone. The oppressive feeling lifted, his body was his own. Again, heart pounding, Anthony turned and ran as fast as he could. So there you go. That's the first witness account of the Highgate Vampire.
Do you know what I like about that story?
Yeah.
The name Anthony. That's a nice name, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anthony. never thought about that before.
You don't really get it anymore, do you? It'd be
No,
like Ant or
Anthony.
Tony or
Yeah,
something.
Tony or Ant. Well, Anthony's a nice name, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
This
don't think that
Anthony's
was
an idiot, though.
I don't think that was what you were going for there, really.
No, I wasn't selling the name. So what do you think?
Sounds ridiculous.
It is, isn't it?
Where was he coming from? The pub, maybe.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. It's always the way, isn't it? Slightly intoxicated, wandered into the woods and saw a figure that wasn't there. It was just some stuff.
Only had 14
bushes.
pints.
Exactly. Come on, Anthony.
So do you want another one?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Floating apparitions. Mary loved the evening walks. They were her way of unwinding after a long day, and despite Highgate Cemetery's eerie reputation, she never paid much attention to the ghost stories.
Who did? Mary?
Mary, yeah.
She loved evening walks.
She does love evening walks, yeah.
Okay. What year was this?
Round cemeteries, 1971.
She likes evening walks around cemeteries. Okay.
Do you think Mary was working on her evening walk?
I think Mary sounds a bit weird.
That was until one autumn evening in 1971. The sun had set, leaving the sky a deep velvety blue. As she passed the cemetery gate, she felt a slight drop in temperature, enough to make her shiver. A gust of wind rustled the dead leaves along the path, which is normal. Then she heard it. A whisper, faint at first.
No, sorry.
Faint at first, like a breath against her ear. She stopped, glancing around. The street was empty, but the whisper came again, stronger this time. It wasn't English. It wasn't any language she recognised. It was a low, guttural chant just beyond the cemetery gates.
A chant.
Her stomach twisted in fear, but curiosity got the better of her. Slowly she turned her gaze towards the cemetery, and there it was, a pale figure floated just beyond the iron bars, its form barely distinguishable from the mist curling between the graves. It had no legs, no feet touching the ground, just a shape hovering in the darkness. Mary gasped, stumbling backwards. The figure tilted its head, as if it had noticed her. For a moment, the world went silent. No wind, no distant traffic, just an unnatural stillness. And then, in the blink of an eye, the figure vanished.
Ooh. I don't know what to make of that. Yeah, maybe, like, you know.
Yeah.
But
they're different. They're completely different.
Yeah. I mean, what's she doing there? That's weird. Just wondering there. I mean, does she have issues? And I don't know. That sounds kind of. It sounds like nonsense. I don't know.
It could be a bit of mist, fog.
Yeah.
London sewers in a cold night.
Smog and
steamy stuff, don't they? Like
steamy stuff.
Steam.
They have loads of steamy stuff in London.
Yes, yeah.
Like, you know, mist or fog or whatever. I don't know. It seems a bit weird. Well, did it say where this was reported? Like, or where did you get it from?
I can't remember.
Was it in like a newspaper or like you just saw it at a website or something?
I just saw it on a website. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems a bit weird. She saw like a figure basically with no legs, and it was like misty. I guess I
just looked for some eyewitness accounts. You know that.
Yeah, no, that's kind of cool. I mean, like, you know, leaves blowing across the path. Well, that's just wind, obviously. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
But we've talked about this before. Your mind can play tricks with you, can't it? You know, it's.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think fear plays a big part in these things. If you're walking through a graveyard, but at the middle of the night, you're thinking, "Shit, there's probably a ghost in here."
Yeah.
So
everything
your mind
that moves is a ghost, isn't it?
Yeah. Or your mind automatically goes, "Oh fucking hell!" Like, there's a ghost or whatever. Yeah. So I think you're more likely to think that you've seen something than actually have seen something. That's just my opinion.
Right, story 3. We'll get there. We'll get through this. Tom had heard the stories of the Highgate Vampire, but he wasn't afraid. Just a ghost story, he told his mates. Something for the newspapers to sell copies. He considered himself a man of logic, and logic told him the dead didn't write. So this is a guy that doesn't believe, you know? So it's good when someone doesn't believe sees it.
Sorry, can I just interject here?
Mm-hmm.
Vampire, right?
Yeah.
What? Like, the two stories that you've told don't suggest, like, a vampire, really?
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. They were different things, weren't they?
Yeah, like, there's no sucking of blood, there's no garlic, there's no crosses, there's no stakes. You know, are we going to get to a vampire thing?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, right. So.
That changed on a foggy night in 1973. Walking home from a late night shift, so he's sober. Tom took the... Well, you'd like to hope so.
Where did he work? Where did he work?
Bus driver, hopefully. Tom took the familiar route past Highgate Cemetery. The fog curled around the grounds. It was foggy, damp and thick, muffling the sound of his boots on the pavement. Then up ahead, he saw a figure standing near the gate. At first he assumed it was another late-night wanderer, but as he got closer, something felt wrong. The figure was impossibly tall, dressed in a long, flowing coat, but its face was horrifically thin. The skin stretched tight over prominent cheekbones. Sounds like Voldemort, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yeah.
And its eyes, they weren't eyes at all.
Nice gear. Kind of like a float.
Yeah. He's at his peak. He was in his prime. Its eyes, they weren't eyes at all. They were black voids, deep and endless, like looking into the abyss. Tom wanted to turn away to run, but he couldn't. The figure held his gaze, and suddenly he couldn't move. His limbs felt like lead, his breathing shallow. He was trapped, pinned by an unseen force. A strange dizziness overcame him. His vision narrowing to a tunnel. He was sinking into those endless black eyes, drowning in them. Then a sharp blare of a car horn from the road behind him. The trance broke. Tom staggered backwards, gasping for breath. The figure was gone. Shaking, he forced himself to run to get away as fast as possible.
Fucking nonsense, though. What? Okay, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that sound. Yeah.
Okay.
Next one.
I've seen creepy, tall, thin guys, you know.
I'm a creepy, thin, tall guy. But, you know, I don't know. Sounds a bit like...
It gets better. After this story, then we'll summarise them.
Okay.
See what was caused of it. There was
okay. Wombat or something.
Yeah.
A kangaroo escaped from the zoo.
No, sorry. Not what caused it. What it caused. What these stories caused.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah. So we don't find out what caused it. The Scratched Man. Gary wasn't a believer in ghosts or vampires, but he did enjoy a thrill. One night after a few drinks with friends.
There we go.
Yeah. He boasted that he'd spend an hour in Highgate Cemetery alone just to prove the legends were nonsense. They dared him and he accepted. At midnight he scaled the cemetery wall, landing with a soft crunch on the damp earth. The air inside the graveyard was heavy, thick with an unnatural stillness. He wandered among the graves, his torch beam flickering over the moss-covered tombstones.
Where's he got a torch from?
We must have taken with him, surely.
Yeah, anyway.
But after a few moments, the excitement faded. The silence was suffocating. The air felt wrong, as if the place itself was watching him. I love when people say the air felt wrong.
I do kind of get that, like a little bit.
The only thing I can imagine is, just before a thunderstorm.
Yeah, when it's really still.
Like,
and when it snows as well. In the morning when it snows, and you step outside, and it's silent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do feel that,
like it's cleaned the air.
Yeah, I'm going to tell. I don't want to. Shall I tell my story now, or do you want me to wait until you finished your story?
This has only got about 6 lines left, or something.
Okay, so you do yours, and I'll tell you an occasion where I felt that.
Then from the darkness, a sound. A faint rustling, a whisper of movement. He turned, flashing his torch towards the source. Nothing. A nervous chuckle escaped his lips. "All right, I get it," he muttered, assuming his friends were playing a trick on him. But the moment he turned back, something icy ran down his back. A sharp, burning sensation slashed across his arm. He gasped, dropping his torch. Clutching his arm, he felt 3 deep scratches searing through his jacket. There was no one there, no animal, no visible attacker. Terrified, he sprinted for the wall, scrambling over it and collapsing onto the pavement outside. The next morning he woke to find 3 long bloodied gashes running from his shoulder to his wrist.
Gashes.
Go on.
Yeah, interesting. Whatever. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't know. He's pissed when he scratched himself on some bushes or something, I don't know. Or when he climbed over the wall.
Yeah, I mean, they are like the 4. I'm gonna tell you about what happened afterwards, but they are like the 4 main stories of people seeing the Highgate Vampire.
Yeah, but well, they've not seen anything though.
No,
Like, they've not seen fuck all. You know, they've just thought they've seen something or like experienced something which is a bit unusual. Which, if you're walking around, like you said, a cemetery at around midnight or after dark, you're gonna feel a bit weird.
yeah.
And I mentioned, like, you know, feeling the atmosphere change. It does happen, like you say, with like a thunderstorm. You know when a thunderstorm's going to come because you feel it. And like I mentioned with the snow, I think when you go out in the morning when it's been heavy snow, it does feel it does feel different, and the sounds are muffled. I think it's something to do with the way that sort of sound travels through sort of the air and stuff when snow's around. Now, I did have one occasion where I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that. I'm a complete skeptic, as you can probably tell by the way we speak on this podcast.
Yeah.
I used to work in a pub called Ye Old King's Head in Chester.
Yeah, we've talked about it. That was
we've spoken
the
about
haunted
it before.
pub, supposedly, wasn't it?
Supposedly, it's a very, very haunted pub.
Yeah.
And I used to work there, and I worked I don't think I did full time, but I used to end up closing up on a Saturday and closing up on a Sunday. So that would mean that I'd be the only person in there after everyone had left. And I remember, like, one particular time, there were a few occasions where it felt a bit weird, but there's one particular time where it did, like, the atmosphere did change. And it was probably me getting freaked out, knowing that it's a haunted pub, and I'm thinking, like, oh, bloody hell, like, I need to get out of here quick. But it was something it was almost like electric. It was almost kind of, there was something fizzing in the air almost. And it wasn't sort of nasty. It didn't want me out or anything. It was just that there felt, it's hard to explain, basically. And I don't believe it was a ghost. I don't know what it was, but it was just very, very strange.
Yeah.
And it ended up with me just talking to myself and talking out loud. No, just because I was so freaked out, I was just like, I just got to talk, just to kind of like, I was just talking like there was somebody there type thing. It was very, very bizarre. So when people say the atmosphere changed, I do kind of get it. And that's the only time I've really experienced it. I mean, there were other freaky things that happened in that pub. I remember hoovering once and the plug just like flew out of the socket. But that could have been anything. But that particular moment, that particular time, that particular night, that's the only time that I've really kind of gone, yeah, what was that? That was a bit weird.
See, energy is a weird thing. There's like static energy, and like energy can just be floating about and stuff like that.
Well, that's it. And it was just really strange. That it did feel like a change in the atmosphere. You know, like the chap said in the story. Like, it did feel like a change in the atmosphere. Like something. The temperature didn't change or anything. It was just like the overall feeling of, I don't know, it's really weird to try and explain it if you've not experienced it. It was just kind of something happened. So I kind of get the comment, the change in the atmosphere.
There must be something about. I mean, that pub that you're talking about. I mean, I think I sent you a photograph a month or so ago. They've now opened a part of it as like a hotel, and you can go and spend the night in
That's
like
right,
the haunted rooms and stuff.
I think they've got a YouTube channel actually where they video of like people who go and stay there for the night and stuff.
So it is supposed to be like a haunted place, you know.
Well, apparently, like I have seen, they've actually got photographs of a supposed ghost, like an actual, like it was in like the sun. Well, you know, who the fucking knows what anything can go in the sun, but yeah, like it's worth looking into if you're into all that shit.
Yeah, no, give it. I'll have another look at it. I think we need to do something. We need to, now we're getting these video podcasts out, we need to do something.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as you know, I mean, we're getting on a bit now with time, aren't we? But as you know, in a few weeks, I will be off, and I will be spending the night in a haunted house, I guess. It's not like a hotel. It's like, so I'm doing my own paranormal expedition.
Which you're telling me, so you need to... Yeah, you need to film it.
I don't think I'll be allowed, but I'll report back, and I can guarantee you. I'll guarantee you nothing happens.
If I look distracted, the last little bit of this I forgot to print out, so it's on my phone.
Right, go for it. It's getting
very
late.
Professional.
Let's do it.
So, because these stories, obviously, they cause some investigations and vigilante hunts. So, paranormal investigator David Ferrant began conducting midnight vigils in the cemetery, hoping to catch a glimpse of the entity. He claimed to have witnessed a tall, dark shadow moving between the graves, and he later reported finding the corpse of a headless animal, suggesting occult activity.
Fuck off.
Sean...
That's all I've got to say about
that. Sean Manchester, another self-proclaimed vampire hunter, believed the entity was a medieval nobleman turned vampire who had been buried in the area before the cemetery was built. He claimed that Satanists had accidentally awakened the vampire through dark rituals.
Naturally.
Yeah. As media coverage grew, hordes of amateur vampire hunters broke into Highgate Cemetery at night, armed with stakes, crosses, and garlic, hoping to kill the creature.
Is there such a thing as a professional vampire hunter?
Professional? Well, I don't know.
Van Helsing.
What do you do? I mean, I work in a restaurant, but I'm an amateur vampire hunter.
Yeah.
In my spare time.
Working accounts in the day, but at night, vampire hunter.
So there were some exorcisms and vampire slaying attempts. Manchester, this was Sean Manchester, which is really confusing because we're talking about London. Manchester claimed to have tracked the vampire to a particular tomb where he and his team performed an exorcism using holy water, prayers, and incense.
Hasn't he read the book?
Hasn't
he read the book?
Well, no, he mustn't.
Exorcisms don't work. What year is this?
Steak. Yeah. An exorcism's for like a poltergeist, a ghost, spirit, isn't it? I know.
Fucking idiot.
But well, here we go. He went. So what happens? He went and he read the book because he later stated that he returned to the crypt and drove a wooden stake through the corpse's heart before setting it alight.
Before going to prison.
Like someone's granddad. Someone's granddad, and he's like sticking a stake through his heart. It's this guy here.
Yeah. If we go see Granddad's grave this weekend.
Yeah.
Dug up with a fucking thing for his chest.
Ferrant, on the other hand, was arrested in 1974 for trespassing.
Oh no, it's a different guy. Sorry,
this is the other guy. Yeah, for trespassing a cemetery whilst carrying a wooden stake and a crucifix. He denied harming any graves, but insisted that something supernatural definitely was at work.
Oh, fuck. You get crazies, man.
I know.
Proper crazies. Vampires as well. It's not like, come on, like think about it, like. Yeah. They're not real. They can't be real. Like
this is in the 70s.
I know, like 50 years ago.
To this day, Manchester insists that he destroyed. Have we not read that? I haven't read that.
I don't know.
To this day, Manchester insists that he destroyed the Highgate Vampire, while Ferrand always maintained that the entity was a supernatural force rather than a vampire. Many believe the Highgate Vampire hysteria was a mix of mass hysteria, gothic storytelling, and real graveyard vandalism.
The normal people thought,
yes.
this is madness.
And most people think the sightings were just animals and homeless people trying to get a kip in the graveyard.
Homeless. Imagine. Vampire!
Some wee homeless guy with a big stake through his heart just trying to get somewhere to sleep at night. That's it. That's it wrapped up. The Highgate Vampire. What do you think? Real?
Is it fucking real? No, of course it's not real. Vampires aren't real. If vampires were real, we'd all want to be one, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
they're brilliant. They're amazing. Maybe not, because obviously you can't go out in the sun, which a lot of people like.
Yeah, but I don't really like the sun. I wouldn't be bothered about that.
I'm a night owl anyway, so I'm pretty much a vampire without the teeth.
But but a vampire, like, we only go out in the sun because it's healthy for us.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's not like people. You say to your kids, don't you? It's sunny. Go outside. Go and play. Is that just because you want them out of the house because you can't be arsed with them? But
probably a bit of both. But I mean, like, I suppose vampires are like parasites, aren't they? Or viewed to be parasites, which is kind of like, they feed off people. But I know a lot of parasites actually. But I mean, they kind of got superhuman strength, and I mean, but no, they're not real, are they? They can't possibly be vampires.
But what you were saying, like, if they come from 1600s, 1400s, whatever, and they can live forever, they're really hard to kill, and they're parasites, and everyone they bite you that becomes a vampire dead. By now, there would just be vampires left.
Yeah, true.
Because they probably are just eating their way through the world.
It's like an inside society, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the Illuminati. You can't spread it too far. Well, no, it's not maybe at all. It's fucking not real. There's no such thing.
I thought it was a fun story. I thought it was interesting.
Very, very fun, but I think it's a mixture of people being pissed, going to a graveyard, freaking out, and people getting overexcited about the idea of something being there, which isn't.
Yeah. What I liked about it is it apparently in the 70s, it did create a proper mass hysteria. There were people really going out to try and hunt this Highgate Vampire.
Yeah,
and it just shows how fucking stupid people are. Yeah, people are too lazy though.
Well, it's the internet thing, I think, as well. Like you had that clown thing about 5 to 10 years ago, where people just dress up as clowns and hide in corridors and stuff. But yeah, you don't really get the kind of ooh, Mothman or ooh, vampire type thing anymore. Do you? It'd be great. I'd love that. If something like that actually kicked off.
There was something I wanted to talk about. I saw a program about Mothman. It just happened to be on the telly, and I've recorded it because there's a bit in it I want to clip out just for this podcast because it was so funny. These people genuinely hunting Mothman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I need to get a little bit in the program to talk to you about because it was funny.
Do it. I mean, I don't know, Mothman's a bit different. I suppose we spoke about cryptids and stuff. Maybe there are creatures that exist that we don't know about, but vampires, fuck off. No way.
No, I know.
No way.
Right, so that's it this week. So,
okay,
for all our fans of cryptids that listen to the show, thanks for listening. It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Is there any London cryptids we could do to satisfy the masses?
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose that was a London-based cryptid, but a vampire is not a London thing, is it? We want something specific to London. I really did hunt for that, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think there is one, is there?
I've already picked mine for 2 weeks' time, and
have you?
It's another spooky one, but it's not. It's more about real stuff.
I've not even picked mine yet. I'll do it justice. Anyway, what are we going on about? It's been an hour. Let's go.
I know. Lovely to see you, James. Missed you last week.
Yeah, it's been good.
It's nice to have a break, but it's nice to be back.
Yeah,
all right. You take care. Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.